Hi guys, my name is Korimae, and today we're going to be recording a Disrespect the 1v1. Today I'm joined by Dratnos, tier list extraordinaire. How you doing, Dratnos?
Good, just glad to be here. Shout out the fans.
And then we're also joined by that guy on Dratnos podcast, Tettles. How you doing, Tettles?
You know, I've been better. Just been referred to as that guy on Dratnos' podcast.
You're used to it? You're used to it?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
So today in Disrespect the 1v1, this is how it's going to work. There's going to be two statements. Each contestant is either going to defend the statement or stand against it. During each argument, the other person can interject one time, and then afterwards the opponents get to retort with their statement. The points are handed out by me, the host. I decide how valid their arguments are. And then whoever gets the most points at the end is going to have a final round where they have to defend something that is almost indefensible, but we'll see if they can do it.
Wait, Your Honor, before we get started, how does the court feel about didn't ask as a points-earning retort?
No more than 1 point for one didn't ask, but it's got to be a good one.
That's fair, they always are.
Your Honor, what about if I ratioed the opponent?
Well, there's only three of us, so I'm not sure how you're going to ratio someone, and I don't think the math is going to check out.
A 2-to-1 ratio, of course.
Okay. Okay, we'll see if that ends up working out. So the first statement is going to be for Tettles, and the statement that you have to defend is Venthyr was superior during Prague, and it was more fun. Go ahead, Tettles.
Yes, Your Honor. Of course, Venthyr was a lot better on Painsmith and Kel'Thuzad, while giving similar to arguably better performance on Sylvanas. This is a high misnomer for the community at large because you have things like Scripe going out and saying that, oh, Night Fae Moonkin is better. And then you have Max doubling down and saying, Venthyr Moonkin brain, lol. This is all just bananas. The Moonkins from Limit, they would even tell you themselves they didn't play that great. At the same time, though, all of the Moonkins agree on one thing, and that Venthyr Moonkin was better as a whole across the whole entire tier. While that is the case, it doesn't mean that Night Fae was unplayably bad, or even that they could not kill World First Sylvanas while playing Night Fae. That is just a very high thing that I want to put out before I get into some more points. Another thing is that it has substantially higher damage across the rate as a whole from players that are capable of playing it at a decent level. So whenever you go and look at Warcraft logs data, the delta between high-performing Night Fae players and high-performing Venthyr players is absolutely massive. And at the same time, middling Night Fae players versus middling Venthyr Moonkin players, that's going to be a lot worse for the Venthyr Moonkin player, but at the same time, get good. It's just a skill issue. Honestly, just get good, I swear. Okay, so as for the fun part, honestly, nothing compares to getting your full ramp off in terms of fun. People talk about Emerald Nightmare Shadow Priest and like getting third Void Torrent is like this great skill expressive thing. Venthyr Moonkin's also in a similar camp as that, where making sure that you get a full ramp off, making sure that you get all 4 of your Star Surges in your Sinful Hysteria window. Those things are very hard to argue with in terms of like fun because it feels so rewarding to get that full ramp off. Same time, it was very bad whenever Sylvanas stuns you because she leaps 60 yards away, but that's not my point. In addition to that, it also helped you time keys way more efficiently while you were playing Venthyr, which allowed you to get more Valor and get Keystone Masters quicker, which is very, very valid for progression as a whole because it gets you better gear.
Objection, how's this relevant?
It gets you better gear, so it's better for Prague. Better gear equals higher DPS, which is better for Prague.
Night Fae Moonkins can time a 15. I'm sure it's possible. I'm not sure it's ever been
worse.
done,
I said
but I'm sure it's feasible.
That was not the argument. The argument is that it's superior.
All right, well, if we're talking about things being superior during Prague, I think the ultimate metric of Prague is who kills the boss first. And if you check the scoreboard, you will find 4 Night Fae Moonkins in World First and 4 Venthyr Moonkins in World Second. And I think that is a unarguable line of checking to see what was actually better during Prague. You're making all these arguments about like, oh, if you check Warcraft logs, if you check the 99 parses, 5 weeks into the tier. But that's not what we're about. We're about what's better during Prague, right? And if you look at Naya in Night Fae, you get that heal when you drop below 50% health. You have a convoke window that just takes 4 seconds, right? It's 4 seconds of casting a convoke.
That's your interjection, right? You gotta stop your interjection and let Tettles finish it. And did your argument?
I thought I was rebutting him.
Oh, are you rebutting him?
Right.
Okay, go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. You've got your 4 seconds of Night Fae, convoking, but you can keep moving while you're doing that. And then the Venthyr, they're there trying to do it for like 40 seconds. 40 seconds of full uptime on mythic bosses is way harder to finagle during progression,
Your Honor,
than 4 seconds.
Your Honor, he's speaking out of tune. He doesn't know what he's talking about. It's actually not that bad.
And also, you're trying to tell me it's more fun when you're just like in every priest's DMs and you're like, no, you have to PI me at exactly 18 seconds into my ravenous frenzy. And you're just like, you're trying to sort that out, and that's supposed to be fun.
I want it to be known.
You already made your intervention, Tettles. You already made it.
Hold on. He's slandering me. He's slandering me. All right, keep going.
You already made it.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Have your piece. I'm not worried about it.
Shut up.
No, it's okay.
I'm just gonna be seething.
Your words can't
over
hurt
here.
me.
I'm gonna be seething over here. Keep talking.
I think that's about all I had for Venthyr Moonkin. I think the case is so evident, and Scoreboard is really just a smashing argument that does all the damage, unlike a Night Fae Moonkin.
Okay, so Tettles now has 4 points and Dratnos also has 4 points.
How did he get 4 points for that?
Scoreboard worth 4.
Scoreboard is pretty powerful. Healing is also pretty powerful. I don't know. I kind of like that argument as well.
True, Survivor's Rally. Look it up, Tettles.
And I also do think Night Fae Moonkins can time keys. Just fine.
No, they can't.
Just fine.
They won't
totally
get invited.
At least up to where the gear stops getting better at 15.
They won't get invited though. It'll be like looking for Moonkin, then they'll DM you. Yo, are you Venthyr? Get them with a no, and then they just decline.
Okay,
No, we're good.
so the next one will be Dratnos, and your statement is, hybrid classes are responsible for keeping the group alive.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's pretty clear when we came into Shadowlands, right? Blizzard gives us these spellbooks full of abilities for a reason, and I think that classes should be making use of every ability in their spellbook, like, Elemental Shaman making good use out of the Primal Strike button that's in their spellbook. That's where you have to walk up and hit something to deal like 2,000 damage. And in a similar vein, everybody else should be making use of all the healing buttons in their spellbook if they get them. You'll hear Feral Druids complaining about like not getting a spot in keys, but if you go to the Feral Druid DPS guide, they're like, oh, shift into Moonkin form and cast a Sunfire when you're out of energy, because that's a DPS increase, when what they should be talking about is, look, use your free regrowth, right? Every time you use a finisher, you get a free regrowth, and if you start casting those, you're going to be keeping people alive. People are going to invite you to group, but no, you're just shifting out into Moonkin form, doing an extra 2 DPS by casting a Sunfire. That's what you think's going to get you invited to groups. And similarly, let's talk about Moonkin a little bit here. Moonkin, if you go back to like the good old days of WoW Classic, right? People wouldn't even be allowed to play those sorts of specs, right? Moonkin or Ret Pallies, or you just get laughed at. You'd be like, no, you're a healer. They should be happy to even get to do some damage. And then when it comes time for there to be a little bit of healing to be done, they should let the true damage dealers, like the rogues, like the warlocks, like the holy paladins, get to do their damage. And they should focus on keeping the group alive like it was during Prideful season. Press Heart of the Wild, toss out a couple of regrowths, let the holy paladin do damage. Everybody's having a good time.
Your Honor, objection. No, not everybody's having a good time. The Holy Paladin is explicitly not having a good time.
I think the Holy Paladin is doing damage. It sounds like he's having a good time.
Your Honor, did you have a good time? Okay.
Look, if you're a Holy Paladin, all right? If you're a Holy Paladin, you're out there, you cast a Holy Shock, right? And somebody's health bar goes up like 20%. And then your Moonkin casts a regrowth and it just tops them. That is the purest indication of who should be doing damage and who should be healing.
Okay, Tettles.
This is baloney.
Your argument?
Okay, first point. You're a DPS, so it doesn't matter whether or not you're a hybrid DPS or a pure DPS. You're still a DPS. It doesn't matter what con artist Dratnos is trying to make you think. So your job is to ultimately top the DPS meters to gain as much clout as possible. So that way, whenever you're streaming, people will be like, who's that Moonkin? Who is he? What is he doing? What's his Twitch? So then they'll leave the other person's stream and come to yours instead. Very important distinction. You need to make
Counter
sure.
argument though, you just switch your details to HPS instead. You just go into the logs, right? And you switch to the healing side, because you can't get a rank 1 damage parse, right? That's hard. People compete for those, but nobody competes for the rank 1 DPS healer parses. That is where there's gold to be mined.
My friend Goosey would argue otherwise, as he always gets rank 1 healer parses for Moonkin. Anyways, continuing on. Hybrids should throw out heals whenever possible. I'm not arguing that they shouldn't heal ever. That's a bad argument. but it should only happen whenever it's absolutely necessary. But as it currently stands, balanced druids and elemental shamans are probably the biggest offenders of this, and they're like fully healing packs or fully healing pulls for healers that are in the meta right now, which is, you should be helping the group, but you shouldn't be fully replacing a healer in that regard. The healer should still be the one who is mostly responsible for the health bars of the party. And while sacrificing healing for DPS, you could just bring a stronger throughput healer. Why don't we just see stronger throughput healers brought? People have this affliction for Holy Paladin, and at the same time, Holy Paladins are sacrificing a lot of HPS to play for damage, whenever there are things like Mistweaver Monk and H-Priest, where if you really thought that healing was going to be a problem, you could be playing Mistweaver Monk and Holy Priest, and they would be able to heal the party. They wouldn't do much damage, but it shouldn't be this thing where you're sacrificing a lot of healing to do damage. And I think that these healers watch Elismir's stream way too often, and they believe that that's the only way to play, when instead they could just heal me one time, one heal. I need it. And so that comes to my major point, which is the issue isn't the amount of healing that the healers can do. The issue comes down to the disparity between the DPS between the healers, and healers feeling obligated that they have to play in that way, where the hybrids need to fully heal trash packs in replace of the healers, which should not happen.
Alright, so Dratnos ended with 9 points and Tettles ended with 8 points, so Dratnos...
It's happened to me!
You kept making the same point! You just kept saying that they're
That's
the ones
so
solo
true.
healing. But like it was a good point, but like, I can't give you more than 1 point for the same
This is
point.
bullshit.
I tried,
Ratio.
man.
Shut up! Shut up!
Alright, so for the defend the indefensible round, Dratnos, you have to defend. PI should give 60% haste. Okay, ready, set, go.
All right, when you think about things that get removed from World of Warcraft, right? It is the most egregious things that actually get deleted from the game, right? And not the things that are just like pretty bad, but not actually big enough to like fly on the devs' radar, right? If we want Power Infusion to be removed from the game as the scourge it is, the best thing for it to happen for us would be for Power Infusion to be massively buffed, right? It's the same thing as like when Spell Reflect was put onto Details, right? And all of a sudden, oh, all these mobs that kill themselves with one Spell Reflect, right? Like in Underrot, that first boss that would just Spell Reflect for like 20% of its health. As soon as that showed up on Details, all of a sudden, it was on the devs' radar, right? And similarly, if Power Infusion goes from being a modest 20% haste up to a balmy 60%, then all of a sudden you're just looking at these parses that are, 40% better because of one Power Infusion, and all of a sudden the devs can't just leave it any longer and they have to actually take action and get it out of here. So that is the argument. It's it needs to be worse before it gets better.
Okay, I kind of like your example because they didn't actually delete Spell Reflect.
Okay, that's a good point, but they did nerf some of the worst parts of the things that you could reflect, right? And if you go into this expansion, a lot of them are deflects now instead of like full-on reflects when you use reflect, because it's on Details. I swear that's why.
Okay, it was a pretty good point, but I don't know if I agree.
Okay.
It was a good effort. It was a good effort, but I don't think I'm convinced that you should make PI 60%.
I don't think there was going to be a way to convince anybody that should
That
be the
is why
case.
it's the indefensible.
Yeah.
Okay, so at the end, Dratnos is still our winner, even though he couldn't defend the indefensible. And thank you guys for joining us. See you next time.
Maybe next time I'll
Another
win.
easy dub.
This is actually just cursed. I don't know how I lost.